Hi everyone, I'm Jess Leinwand from Facebook and thrilled to be talking to you today about our approach to misinformation. And apologies in advance for muddling the term. But I'll divide my talk today into three main topics. First is newsfeed ranking, which kind of sets context for how to understand our fight against inauthentic content, and third-party fact-checking, which is part of the foundation of how we're trying to address misinformation on the platform. So newsfeed ranking, and I'll try to go through this very quickly. First, what is an algorithm? It's a term that gets tossed around frequently. Essentially, an algorithm is just a formula for addressing a particular problem. And in our case, the problem is there's too much content in your newsfeed to consume all at once. There has to be some logical way of ordering it. And we order content in accordance with our values. What are those values? First, friends and family come first. Second, we're a platform for all ideas. We support freedom of expression. Third, we believe in authentic communication. Fourth, you control your experience. You control who your friends are, you control the pages you follow, and you control the content you see first in your newsfeed. And last, we're always iterating. Our policies are subject to change. Our algorithm is subject to change based very much on feedback in sessions like these. So what is the algorithm composed of? First, it's composed of an inventory. That's all of the potential content that could be in your newsfeed. Based on that inventory, there are certain signals. Who posted something? How recently was the content posted? Based on those signals, we make certain predictions about how you'll engage with the content. And based on all of these things, we assign the content a relevance score, and that score dictates where the content will fall in your newsfeed. So let's say this is all of the potential content you might see, all of your friends, the pages you follow, the brands you follow. And for each of these entities, there's a post. And based on the post, again, there are certain signals. Who posted it, when, what is the story type, et cetera, et cetera. And again, just flying through the slides given the time. Based on all of these, based on the signals, we'll make certain predictions about your likelihood to engage, your likelihood to click on it, your likelihood to share it, your likelihood to like it or comment on it, et cetera, and you'll get a score. And so each piece of content gets a score. Higher scores mean that the content will surface higher in your newsfeed. So a score of 1.4 would fall before a score of 1.2, 1.7, et cetera. The details about our algorithm, and to the extent we make any changes, we try to be transparent about those, and we detail them in our newsroom. Most recently, we put up a documentary called Facing Facts, which explores the newsfeed team's approach to addressing misinformation. Which brings me to the next topic. In terms of addressing inauthentic content on the platform, we follow a three-part framework called Remove, Reduce, and Inform. The question that I have to answer most frequently, and probably one of the harder questions that we face, is why don't we simply remove false news? And the answer is Facebook doesn't have a policy that requires people to post only true content. Another way of saying this is that we don't remove content simply because it's false. And I know this has been a subject of recent criticism, and people disagree about where we draw the line. But when we balance freedom of expression and safety, and also considering that we do prioritize posts from friends and family, we think it would be impossible, and we've heard feedback from our community that no one would want us to be in the position of determining the truth or falsity of content, as particularly at our scale. We do remove content for violating our community standards, and I'm on the team that helps write those rules. And so those rules cover things like bullying, harassment, hate speech. Content that does violate our community standards is removed from the platform. One of our community standards addresses misrepresentation and authenticity, and so we do also remove fake accounts from the platform. You have to be who you say you are on Facebook. And lastly, we remove monetization rights, so repeat purveyors of false news will lose their ability to monetize on the platform. I should say that we made an update to our community standards 2 weeks ago. We announced it, where we decided that we would be removing misinformation if reported to be contributing to imminent violence. And this policy change was very much in response to things that we saw in places like Myanmar and Sri Lanka, where content that was false, that didn't rise to the level of hate speech under our policies or as credible threats of violence, nonetheless was reportedly contributing to violence on the ground, and we thought it was appropriate to draw a line around imminent violence. But generally speaking, we do believe that reducing the appearance of misinformation in newsfeed and doing this pursuant to our newsfeed ranking is the appropriate way to deal with misinformation and false news. And I mentioned repeat offenders. What do we do with repeat offenders? These are repeat sharers of false news. We reduce their distribution in newsfeed, meaning that any content they post on the platform will be reduced. We remove their monetization rights, and their monetization rights, and we are using machine learning to identify more repeat offenders. Inform. How do we inform our users? Two primary ways. One is the context button. When you see an article on Facebook, you'll probably see a little eye icon. If you click on that, it will give you basic information about an article, who published it, when it was published, who's the author, etc. We've also launched a news literacy campaign in the United States and abroad, and the purpose of this is really to educate our community to empower them to make judgments about what they should and shouldn't trust on the platform. Third-party fact-checking, I think I mentioned, this is really the foundation of the reduce part of the remove, reduce, inform model. So how does it work? Briefly, we identify content that should be queued or sent to fact-checkers for review. Fact-checkers review and make determinations about the truth or falsity of the content, and we take action on that content based on the fact-checkers' reviews and ratings. So how do we identify content for our fact-checkers? It's using our algorithm, again, inventory signals and predictions. And primarily the signals that we look at are feedback from our community. So our community members can actually report to us when they believe content is false. And we also look at disbelief comments, things like, no way, or you must be joking, there's no way this is true, or just, hashtag false news. Or fake news. This all feeds into a machine learning classifier, which is getting better and better all the time at predicting whether content is potentially misinformation. Fact checkers can also proactively identify stories and rate that content in our tool, and fact checkers review the content in our tool. Again, Facebook is not making determinations about truth or falsity on our own. They review content pursuant to this rating grid, and basically it can be divided into two buckets: content that's rated false or mixture. Mixture is basically claims, true and false claims embedded in an article, and content that's rated, and then everything else. Content that's rated false or mixture will be demoted in newsfeed, but content that is rated anything else will not be demoted, but related articles or additional context might be shown. So what's the impact on a story if it's rated false? It will be demoted in newsfeed. A sharing interstitial will appear. This is essentially a warning screen. So if I try to share an article that's been marked false by our fact checkers, I'll be alerted with this warning screen that it has been marked false. User notifications, if I share an article that is later marked false, I'll get a notification saying that I actually did share something that was marked false by a fact checker. And related articles, which is more context. It's basically the fact checker's article that explains why the article it rated is false or misleading. And again, we believe that showing our users additional information so that they can understand what was false, what was misleading about the article they shared, is one of the best ways to educate our community and empower them to make better judgments about what they're seeing on the platform. We have, our data scientists have told us, we have data that shows that once a piece of content is rated false and demoted in newsfeed or reduced, it also reduces future views of that content by 80%. So it's quite effective. Where are we currently? So when we started this program, we had launched in 3 or 4 countries, and today we're proud to say that we have expanded internationally to 17. And where do we go from here? We're hoping to expand the fact-checking program to additional countries. We've launched already an alpha test of fact-checking photos and videos internationally. So right now, our fact-checking program has been focused on links or news articles, but we are moving to photos and videos where we understand there is a good deal of misinformation. I can't even see what this says. Increasing the impact of fact-checking. And we're doing this mainly by identifying duplicative content. So once a fact-checker rates an article as false, how can we find duplicative links that are also false and take action on that content? And taking more aggressive action against repeat offenders. I think I mentioned we do see that most false news is shared by repeat offenders, so people are sharing this stuff over and over again, and so we think taking action at the actor level as opposed to just the content level is one of the ways to disrupt the financial incentives behind false news and really get at the heart of this problem. And last, we understand that we have more work to do around transparency, both with our fact checkers, with our community, with stakeholders and people who are interested in what we're doing, and we're really working hard to be more transparent about misinformation on our platform and the ways that we're trying to address it. Thank you.